Hello everyone and welcome to Speaker Talk Radio. My name is Claire Perkins and today I'm talking to Clinton Wingrove. Clinton is a consultant, coach, trainer, author and speaker with over 30 years HR experience. He believes passionately in HR and its ability to make positive and measurable impacts on the bottom line of organisations, as well as on the life of every individual employee. Let's find out more. Hello Clinton, welcome. Thank you for coming on Speaker Talk Radio.
Hi Claire, delighted to join you.
Thank you. Clinton, you're a professional speaker on HR issues, the latter of which led to you being introduced at an annual USA HR conference as an HR futurist, pragmatist and passionator. I like that. Can you tell me what this means, please?
Yes, I had to explain that last one to my wife. Sure, I started my career with 3M, the people who make Scotch tape and so on, and it's an immensely innovative company. So I learned to always look forward for future solutions, not to start from where you are, not to copy others. So that's where the sort of futurist bit comes from. Pragmatist, well, I'm a bit of an analytical geek. I do a lot of statistical analysis, really believe in the power of evidence. So I like solutions that actually work and that you can prove do. And the passionator bit, I think, comes from the fact that I really do believe in the power of HR, and I've always had a very positive attitude. My father used to say to me, don't be miserable, too many people are better at it. So I think I've become known for somebody who, you know, as one person said, you have so much energy, I suspect you're on something. I'm not, but I do get passionate. So yes, it was a conference in Dallas-Fort Worth, and I was introduced in a brilliant Texan drawl as the HR futurist, pragmatist and passionator, and I was so delighted by that I now put it on my speaking business card.
You have a program called Impact Virtually and talk about how the nature of work has changed, and fundamentally, how has the nature of work changed? I mean, has it been over a length of time or have you seen it happen quite quickly?
Yeah, so first, how has it changed? You know, we all know that we've got things like flexible working and so on, but the thing that's quite fundamental that's changed is we used to have conversations, you know, face-to-face, perhaps even on landlines or by letter or exchanging memos. So those conversations, we explored ideas and we evolved them. But with the advent of mobile and smartphones and texts and emails and SaaS applications, combined with the fact now that we're typically working virtually and global, our communications are now fundamentally different. They're composed of what I call connectives, lots and lots of brief, transient connections between people, between software processes, between things. We even interact now with inanimate objects across space, time, languages and cultures. So the very nature of our conversations now is almost like tennis. We're batting bits of data backwards and forwards, often involving different people, but we're not having that depth of conversation. And frankly, that started probably back in the 80s, but it's rapidly accelerating. So despite having the highest levels of communication in history, we also now have no increase in productivity, and we've got some of the highest levels of loneliness in organisations and in society in general.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about the 5 mistakes of impacting virtually. What are these 5 mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, overall, the mistake is believing that if we're working virtually, it's not much different to working face-to-face.
Well, it's totally different.
It is fundamentally different.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the 5 key things. One is, I think a lot of people, particularly in business, neglect their virtual brand. They don't realise that even if they're not active on social media, that's part of their brand. They're known for not being there. Because people in business now, the minute they want to know something about you, that's where they look.
Yeah.
People ignore the fact that if they're posting stuff on Facebook and then they say, but my professional presentations are on LinkedIn, well, guess what? People look at both. So the fact that you're seen doing handstands in boxer shorts in the middle of Las Vegas doesn't do a lot for your business credibility.
Not really, no.
Number 2, not understanding how organisations now work, not understanding that in organisations now it's not who you know that matters. It's who knows what you know that matters, because people track you down for what you know. And if you don't understand that change in how organisations' politics work, that's key. Third one, people assume there's a shared understanding when often none exists. I forget who it was said, but there was a quote, I know you think you understand what you thought I said, but I'm not sure you realise that what you heard is not what I meant. People don't realise in a virtual environment, ensuring that you're understood at the other end is far more important than it is face-to-face.
Yes.
And I did some research. In face-to-face meetings of 6 or more people, at any one point in time, less than 50% of people are paying attention because our attention spans are much shorter. If it's a video conference, less than a third are paying attention. If it's a telecom conference, less than 25%. So if you're on a telecom conference with people in China and US and whatever, the probability is that less than 1 in 4 have any idea what you said. So assuming there's understanding is key. The fourth one is, I think we've become addicted to technology because it's new and glitzy, and we let technology take the lead. I was trained as a computer scientist. I led the automation of a big European distribution centre. I've been CEO of a software house for 12 years. So I'm into technology, but it's having immensely damaging effects on many organisations because the technology was created by technologists. It wasn't created by people who understand the psychological effects, the impact on productivity and communication.
Yes.
So we've got to be much more selective. And then the fifth thing is not capitalising on the skills that we've got. In a virtual world, we need similar skills, but we've got to use them in a different way. So not realising that we've got the skill to get people's attention, but often in a virtual environment, we don't use those skills. We just assume people are listening to us. We've got the skills to persuade people, but in a virtual world, you've got to be much faster, much pithier, and much more exciting to get people's opinions to shift. So that's really the big 5 mistakes I see.
The HR anarchist, I love that. Do you see yourself as an HR anarchist?
Oh, absolutely. Now, let's be fair. I passionately believe in the strategic power of HR. I'm an HR person, unashamed, and I believe, our time is coming. I don't believe it's here yet. But absolutely, I believe I'm an anarchist, and I'll explain why. Firstly, I don't believe that HR should abdicate its power to those who seek to control or trivialise the very processes and tools that will maximise performance and development. For 10 years, we've not seen an increase in productivity. We've got to do something different. Now, a few companies are starting to realise that, but frequently senior execs demand that things are made simpler and simpler and simpler to the point where they're trivial, and HR typically says yes to everything they're asked to do. If we're seriously the people who understand what HR can achieve, we should fight for what we believe in and convince other people to do it. Now, most people would argue that that's an anarchistic stance, and absolutely. The second thing is, I believe HR has got to come together with like-minded HR professionals. We're generally relatively poor at networking. So in organisations, you'll frequently find that the most senior HR person has very little connection with other HR professionals, and they rely on the media for their updates and their news. We've got to be much better at coming together with other HR professionals and building powerful teams who really know what we're doing. And again, I think most people would say that's a relatively anarchistic stance. That's why I call myself the HR anarchist.
So why do HR still struggle then to achieve respect and impact? I mean, this is a question you ask, and in your opinion, the answer is?
Yeah. I think we have a history of focusing almost exclusively on the transactional issues, and over the last couple of decades we've done a lot to bring everything HR related under one banner, and I don't believe that was a smart move. So because if you focus on transactional stuff, you're always distracted by the urgent to the exclusion of the strategically important.
Yes.
So that's number one. Number two, we're typically more reactive. We believe that good service is about saying yes and doing what the execs need. I don't believe that's right. I believe good service is about providing people with solutions that work, which might not be what they'll ask for. So we've got to be more proactive rather than reactive.
Yes.
And thirdly, I believe we depend far too much on HR technical skill and pay too little attention to 5 other skills which I've found differentiate the really exceptional HR leaders. And that's business acumen, being able to talk about HR in business terms, technology acumen, understanding the power of technology and making good use of it, analytical acumen, making sense of data. The quality of HR data in most companies is awful and it's often grossly misunderstood and misinterpreted. And then the last two is, I believe HR needs to demonstrate courageous behaviour, and secondly, be much more personally effective in terms of negotiation skills, persuasion skills, and so on.
You go on to say the quality of those responsible for others is by far the single most important factor. I mean, I couldn't agree more. However, from recent experience, I have found the quality at best half-hearted and at worst totally clueless. And to me, it seems as though the quality of HR staff is nowhere near as important as the amount of money you can get away with paying for them. You know the saying, pay peanuts, you get monkeys. And I've had my fair share of having to deal with members of the primate family. I love how you talk. I mean, I wish you could actually split yourself in goodness knows how many pieces and go and see every HR agency out there. I really do. But let's go on to talk about Super Teams, a book you co-authored with Paul Marciano and that you published back in 2013. The book's full title is Super Teams, Using the Principles of Respect to Unleash Explosive Business Performance. I have to ask, of course, what are these principles?
Sure. Yeah, going back to that last point, I passionately believe that the quality of HR and the quality of managers is the differentiating factor of companies which are sustainably successful. So I agree with you. But yeah, the principles in Super Teams, they're first discovered by Dr. Paul Marciano from New Jersey, and I worked with Paul into some of his research into dysfunctional relationships, and eventually explored that in the context of work, and he published a prior book, Carrots and Sticks Don't Work. We then took that research further, studying the impact on groups of people, especially what differentiates super teams from good teams. Everybody knows what a bad team looks like. What we wanted to understand was what differentiated good from super. And the definition of super was very easy. Good teams consistently meet their expectations. Super teams consistently meet their expectations and then raise the bar themselves. In other words, they're highly self-motivated. The key principles first was that disrespect is extremely common, it's contagious, and it damages relationships, performance, and personal development. And we see that everywhere. People jumping the line, cutting in front of you, being rude, posting negative comments on social media, not saying please and thank you. The second was that the differentiating characteristic we found of super teams was that there were 5 dimensions of respect present. Firstly, every member of the team respected the organisation and actively talked it up. In good teams, people often said, the company's not what it used to be. Secondly, in super teams, everyone respected the leadership. They challenged them, but if they did it in the right forums. They respected the fact that leaders make final decisions, and they demonstrated collective responsibility. Perhaps in the UK, our cabinet could learn something from that.
Yes.
The third one was in super teams, everybody respected the work. If they couldn't think of a way of doing it better, or if they couldn't persuade other people to do it in a different way, they got on with it and respected the fact that's what they were paid to do. They got the work done, got it done quickly, got it done well. The fourth one was in super teams, everybody respected their fellow team members. In simple terms, they talk to each other rather than about each other. Really significant differentiator. But the fifth and the most important differentiator was in the super teams. Every team member went home every day feeling respected. That's incredibly easy to achieve, but it's incredibly rare. So that was the key one.
Respect is an acronym, isn't it? And your system is composed of 7 easy to implement elements. What are they and why so important within a team?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to increase productivity in the Western world, we have to improve the quality of our teamwork. And I don't just mean reporting teams, it's any group of people. And in most organisations now, even in social world, we mix in lots of different groups. If we're going to be really successful, we have to ensure that those groups that we're part of, or teams as we call them, are super teams. And yeah, what we found was that there were 7 behaviours that correlated directly with achieving these 5 levels of respect. Respect for the organisation, leadership, work, team members, and each other. What we found was there were 7 of them. Firstly, recognition. People acknowledging each other, not just walking past each other, not paying attention, recognising each other for things we do. And this is not, the formal, you get a pen if you come up with a good idea. This is just plain, simple recognition.
Yes.
To give you an example of that, I travelled back from the US on a 777, 440 passengers. I was in the final row because I'd booked late. As I got off the plane, the purser presented me with a bottle of champagne. And I said, I think you've got the wrong person. He said, no, you're Mr. Wingrove, you're in for seat signs. I said, yes. I said, why are you giving me a bottle of champagne? He said, the crew noticed that on the last beverage round, you were the only passenger who said please and thank you. So recognition can be as simple as that.
Yeah.
The E was empowerment, letting people make decisions. In many companies, we trap people. What we need to do is say to people, this is what we want achieved. We've employed you because we believe you can do it. Now go and achieve it, rather than micromanaging them, empowering them to find the ways of doing things better.
Yeah.
The third one was supportive feedback. A lot of companies train their managers how to give constructive feedback. I don't know about you, Claire, but I've never received constructive feedback and thought, that was nice. Yeah. I mean, and neuroscience is now telling us that the minute somebody tells you what you've done wrong, fight or flight syndrome kicks in.
Yes.
What we found in the super teams was they learned from the past, but what they talked about was the future. Feedback was forward. Clint, how about if you try it this way next week? How about if you do X rather than Y? So it was always a positive conversation.
Yeah.
Fourth one's P was for partnering. Managers need to know when to take their label that says boss off and just get in with the team and do the work that needs doing. And that's quite different from micromanaging or interfering. Knowing when the team needs you, getting in, putting on the same kit, being one of them, and then when you need to, stepping back and becoming the boss again.
Yeah.
Partnering is immensely powerful. The second E was expectations. And of course, companies say, well, we've got goals and objectives and OKRs and KPIs and standard measures and whatever. Absolutely. So yes, you need to make those expectations clear. But what we found in super teams was every time somebody said, I expect this of you, Claire, they then said, and Claire, what do you expect of me to help you achieve that? So expectations were reciprocal. The next to last was the C, was consideration. In super teams, people recognise that they're all human beings. We've all got different characteristics, and I'm not getting into sort of diversity and LGBT. I'm just talking about the fact that we all have different personal lives and preferences and values. And what they did was they showed consideration. So in the super teams, yes, there may be a rule that says you can't leave work at 4 o'clock. But if one of your team members' child has just been taken sick and nobody's there to pick them up, leave at 3 o'clock. We'll cover you. You can make up the time tomorrow. They recognise the value of humans. They showed consideration. And then the last one was trust. What we found in super teams was if somebody said, I'd like to have a go at that. I believe I can do it. The team would trust them, even if they didn't know that they could. So trust is not letting people do things you know they can do. It's letting them do things that they believe they can do, but you don't know. So those were the 7.
Interesting. Well, what changes occur in a team when respect is used?
Yeah, it's very significant. You can almost smell it. And I think one of the most recent, and I have to admit here, I'm not a soccer fan. I don't like football. I'm actually a Harlequins rugby union supporter. But one of the most impressive things I saw was how Gareth Southgate, during that last World Cup, worked with the team of players that he had. And we saw some fabulous demonstrations by Gareth of those 7 things. We saw the respect they all had for each other. And what we saw was increased alignment and collaboration. They were all clearly trying to achieve team success. They weren't trying to achieve individual fame. The quantity and the quality of the interactions improved. The commentators were commenting on how the team was playing as a team. Kane wasn't out there, on his own up the front as the striker. It was a full team. We saw increased performance. They trained better, they trained harder, they played more, the quality was higher. And you saw much less demand for management. Gareth was enabling them, he wasn't managing them. You didn't see him at the side screaming and shouting and ranting. Most of his contributions from the side were encouragement. They didn't need the management. Why? Because they developed that super team spirit.
Now, that's fantastic. I love talking about this. It's so interesting. Right, the Quaternion profile. Have I pronounced that correctly?
Yeah, Quaternion, yeah. Quaternion, yeah. It's one of those words. Is it process or process?
Leadership beyond best practice describes what it takes to excel, not merely be good in an organisation. So briefly, what does it take to excel and not just merely be good?
Yeah, this is again one that gets me really excited. I was head of management training and development for 3M UK, and I passionately focus on how you improve in organisations' performance and development. So I'm really interested in this, and we've had this frustrating drive for oversimplifying things, and organisations have said, if you demonstrate these 7 competencies, you'll be brilliant. If you read this one book, you'll be brilliant. What my research showed, and I carried it out over a 20-year period, is that in order to be good, you have to have a very wide range of skills.
Yes.
Then to excel, you do one of 2 things. You either, having established that you're good at all the things that are required, you then excel at one of them, or perhaps 2 of them. So if I use a chef as an example, a great chef isn't a chef because they mastered beef Wellington. They're a great chef because they mastered how to prepare food, chop food, season food, boil it, broil it, sear it, etc. They have a wide range of skills. What they then do is they master one of them. So they become the master at a specific skill.
Yeah.
Or they learn how to combine those skills in a new and a unique way. Well, management's exactly the same. You can't be good if you've got fundamental weaknesses in the elemental skills that you need.
Exactly.
So you've got to be good at all of them. So this thing about just master 7 is a nonsense. So what we did was we analytically derived what those fundamental skills were. Then to excel, you've got a choice. Pick 1 or 2 of them and excel at those. Or find different ways to combine some of them to create a particular impact. So that would be my answer. And the 4 sets of skills that people in people management or managing a function need are quite simple. Management. You have, the job is about getting stuff done,
yes.
optimizing use of resources and delivering the vision and all that stuff. You need to be personally effective. Organisations now are highly political. It's about interacting. So you've got to be able to optimise your personal contributions and impact. Thirdly, you need business acumen. Even if you're in a charity, you've got to know how to raise money, how to use it well. So you need to have the knowledge and skills and aptitude to operate in a complex environment. And then fourthly, leadership. And you might be puzzled that I put leadership last, but we also need leadership, creating a vision, bringing it alive and securing commitment and resources to it. And the reason I say put that last is most companies focus on leadership, but they've already got a vision, they've got values, they've got missions, they've got posters all over the place. What most companies these days need is quality management,
yes,
and personal effectiveness.
Yeah.
And focusing on leadership, just creating a new goal is not going to help if you can't achieve the goal you've already got.
Exactly. So why Quartonian? Why that word?
Yeah, you're in business, Claire, so you'll probably understand, but most people don't know how difficult it is to come up with a name of something that you can then trademark without some challenge. And it seems that somebody somewhere in the world has already commandeered it. So firstly, Quaternion was something that nobody apart from an investment fund had got, and of course their business is quite different to ours. The second one was because of the linkage. Quaternion is actually a class of hypercomplex numbers.
Yes. I have to admit, sorry, I have to interrupt you. I must admit, I did actually Google it, and I looked and I thought, okay, I can't get that one. So carry on.
Yeah. So Quaternion is actually a class of hypercomplex number theory, and the Quaternion profile that we've developed is quite complex. It's got 4 dimensions, it's got 52 competencies, it's got 208 behaviours. So it's complex and it's numerically based because we derived it empirically. And the Quaternion profile is based on analytical research, so it's not trivialised. So yeah, consequently, we called it a profile because it profiles all of that data and presents it in a non-trivial way. And then Quaternion also has got the prefix quat or quat, which also means 4, and there are 4 dimensions in the profile. So there is some logic to it, but part of it was finding something that we could trademark.
Oh, fair enough. You describe yourself as a behaviour engineer, and your talks have taken you to your business has taken you to the UK, USA, Canada, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Germany, Switzerland, and Barbados. Have you found that most countries now have more or less the same problems in HR?
Yes, I mean, many of the challenges experienced across the world, and in fact now I'm privileged to write a monthly column for the largest HR magazine in India called People Matters. So so the cross-culture things fascinate me, but what's interesting is that most countries do have their own cultures. So whilst they have similar challenges, they have the challenge of new ways of working, they have the challenge of globalization, they have the challenge of getting more done for less. But the different cultures, create different requirements.
Sure.
It may be politically incorrect to say it now, but different nationalities, different countries, where, irrespective of where you live, do have a cultural impact. And in fact, so do different functions. I mean, I've worked with companies where even different buildings have different cultures. All the prima donnas are in one building and all the analytical geeks like me are in another.
Sure.
So the challenge for HR is addressing these. We have to design processes and tools that focus on our shared characteristics, which are because we're people, but we can't keep pretending that we're all the same.
Absolutely.
We all have equal value, but we do have different preferences, values, biases and cultures. And HR has got to reflect that in how it does things.
Lastly, where can listeners find out more about your talks, your work, your book, and of course how to contact you?
Oh, right, yeah, that's a complex answer. And thank you, Claire, by the way. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, so thank you for the opportunity. I can obviously be contacted by email. The easiest one to remember is clinton@clinton clintonhr.com. That's Clinton at clintonhr.com. My books are available on Amazon, so Super Teams and Impact Virtually are both available on Amazon. I regularly post on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I believe that I'm still the only Clinton Wingrove on there. So thank you, Mum, for picking a name that's unique. And my 3 websites, wanttobegreatmanager.com, that's wanttobegreatmanager, all one word, .com, is where I talk about the Quaternion profile and everything related to that. ClintonWingrove.com, all one word, no spaces, is where I cover my speaking business. That's ClintonWingrove.com. And ClintonHR.com, all one word, ClintonHR.com is where you'll find all the details about anarchistic HR and how to solve the world's problems.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you, Clinton. That was so interesting. Please come back on Speaker Talk Radio. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Speaker Talk Radio. Let the world hear what you have to say. Thank you, Clinton.
Thank you, Claire. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, my pleasure. Bye now.
Bye-bye.